Please join me in welcoming my co-host Taylor Cocke and Damian Estrada, who is here to show us a sneak peek of Team Liquid's upcoming documentary, Breaking Point. Damian, how are you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Taylor?
I'm replacing Travis this week, so I honestly couldn't be much worse.
And we're all happy you're here instead, too. Before we get into the sneak peek, Damian, I just wanted to ask you a little bit about the company behind it. It's shot and done by 1UP. So what exactly is 1UP for people who aren't familiar?
So 1UP Studios is a production company that was formed after kind of like off the success of Rebirth. We got a lot of pings and like, hey, can you guys like help us? Like, we did a project for C9. We had additional buys from HTC to do like a Smash documentary, and we were like, hey, maybe this is something that we could actually explore and like build a company and like a foundation off of and grow a staff. And so we did that. We picked up projects like the MLG Major for CSGO and just a ton of other commercial work, and it's been like snowballing it at a pretty awesome rate.
That's sick. So if anyone does want some cool esports content, definitely hit up Damian. Let's take a look now at the sneak peek that he brought for us for the film coming out, Breaking Point.
It was extremely volatile, Korea, in the scrim room, but outside of the scrim room, we all loved each other. It was awesome, like going out and, I mean, I've always loved Piglet like a brother, and I've always had a ton of respect for him as a player, but I mean, nobody's ever themselves when they're frustrated or upset, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things people say that they regret when they say I'm angry or whatever it may be, and I'm the same way. Like, there's a lot of things I've said during scrims where I'm just like, yeah, there's no way I'm wrong on this, where it's just my ego talking, and it's like, yeah, obviously I'm wrong. Like, I come back to it, like, it was a cycle where it would be like, our egos would go at it in the AM, and then we'd be like, all right, let's go out for dinner, and then we'd go out for dinner, and like, oh, my bad today, dude, like, sorry. But I mean, we were still ego heads the day after, nothing changed.
Over the course of this 36-minute game, I didn't talk for 20 seconds straight. Damn, I really checked out, dude.
And then now you're being, what is it? This is what you do when you're checked out, and when I call you out.
Ooh, I'm checked out of real life too. Fuck, you got me, dude.
I mean, yeah.
So when can we get to see the full thing, Damian?
I wish I could just copy and paste the image here.
November 2nd?
November 2nd, 11/2, which is oddly 112.
HTC Esports YouTube channel?
Yes, correct.
All right, cool. So obviously Dardoch vs. Loco Doco is like the central storyline for the season and probably a big part of the movie, I assume. But how much do you go into other storylines, and how much time are you devoting to them, and what are they?
So I don't want to give away too much, right? But there are definitely more storylines than just that. I think there's the element of like, what happened to Piglet? Why did he go from the main roster to the challenger team? How was it having Fabi come in? Because I feel like a lot of people are really obsessed with like, oh, like Team Liquid just like gave up, like they swapped out for Fabi. We actually had like a really good record during the course of having Fabi on. So that's like a pretty cool sequence where you see like, oh wow, they weren't actually bombing as much as everyone thought they were.
How much of the film is that really chill guitar?
That actually, only there.
Is that even in the main movie, or is that like
that's
specifically for this? Oh, okay.
That's actually.
I like
Great,
to
now
just
Taylor
relax.
will actually watch. As someone who is pretty close to the team and friends with a lot of the staff members that were still there, I heard some of the crazy stuff that was happening. Are you guys, is this like a complete tell-all, or is there some stuff that's like too much to like show to the
Sure.
public?
So I think there's like the right balance, right? I don't need to show someone doing X 100 times, because you already get it by seeing it once or twice, right? So it's kind of like beating a dead horse, no pun intended, or a broken one. And so,
Come on, man, that's your own voice.
Oh, freak 101. And so the goal of the movie is to show like different perspectives. So you do have the Dardoch versus Loco, you do have the Matt versus himself, where he's struggling with confidence, and how does the coaching staff / other team members affect that? Then you have, like I had mentioned before, the elements of like Piglet going to the other team, and you know, he felt as though by going he would take a break and sort of like figure out himself on the TLA roster, but then ultimately it kind of didn't pan out.
How many? You said you don't need to see it 100 times. How many times are these dudes yelling at each other like this? This is like, it seems, it's intense once. Like we need all of them. Is what I'm saying. Can you put out a 12-hour cut of just people screaming at each
We
other?
could probably put out a 4-hour cut of people screaming.
Extended edition.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. Like I've only been embedded with a couple teams, but the couple teams that I have been embedded with all have exactly the same issues. The only difference here is that like, I wouldn't say like we're willing to put it into a documentary, but we're being very honest with how the environment is. So the goal of this film isn't to be like, person A was horrible and that's why we lost, or person B didn't do their job and that's why we lost. The goal of this, for me coming into it as a filmmaker, and then also for the staff after everything happened, is to like, what is it like to be in a competitive team? Now, obviously, there were a lot of decisions that were made that seemed really like, why on earth would you ever do that? And the goal of this is to like explain why those things happen as much as possible.
And kind of touching on that idea of like, why would you do that? You as the filmmaker have to pick and choose those out, as well as like watch them over and over again as you're trying to get the color correction right, or the audio levels, whatever it is. Is this something that is difficult for you to do, to get trusted with like showing people's vulnerable moments but not making them look bad, these kinds of things? Like, what's it like as the filmmaker?
You always have to think about like, so what does this do for the person or persons involved, right? So many times when cutting the film, I'm like, how does this make Dardoch look? Or how does this make Loco look? Or is Matt gonna feel too odd about like this section? I actually had this really interesting moment where Matt had come in to do like a supplementary interview because we wanted to ask him about specific things in Korea. And we showed him the cut where like he talks about being vulnerable, and like at the end of it, Dardoch's like, yeah, there's like not much else for like him and me. Like we both, maybe didn't do much after high school. And it was like, oh, this is so weird, because like I feel emotional right now. How does Matt feel watching this? And so we got some of his perspectives on things. But yeah, it's like a fine line of like, this might be too much, because I know at my worst, I say things that I wouldn't want people to say. So it's like trying to find the right balance.
All right, very cool, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. Thank you for sharing this, and we look forward to the release of the documentary.